YouTube? It's your girl DeeDee. Welcome back to the channel. So I'm back with another 2 cents video, you guys. So y'all know we see a lot of videos all over social media of women complaining about men every single day. We see women complaining about men, why men ain't doing this. They want to do the bare minimum. Why they not leveling up? They trash. That is what they not gonna do. What you not gonna accept from a man. Why these men are this and that. We hear women complain about men every single day on all these apps on social media, right? And so, and we also hear women say they're not going to settle, they're not going to do this, and marriage ain't the goal, and these men, and we happy by ourselves, and all of this, but they still seem to be panicking when they realize that men are not chasing them. On one hand, you see a bunch of women complaining about men and they don't need them, and then we good by ourselves and leave us alone. Women screaming all over the place talking about leave us alone and all of this. But then these be the same women that come back and complain that men are not chasing them, men are not approaching them, men are not, you know, giving them eye contact, men are not even looking their way. To the point now that people are actually, they really seem concerned. They almost seem like they're panicking at the fact that men are even asking, are y'all serious? Are y'all really not approaching? Are y'all really done with us? They're asking these questions. And I always ask myself, why is it that women are so adamant, and this is not all women, but for the ones that are so adamant about not needing a man, and they're dusty and at the bottom of the barrel, and we can do bad by ourselves, and we happy taking our trips and living our best lives, but then they still are concerned as to why the men aren't approaching. I would think that if you're so happy in your life and doing your own thing, which is great, I think that's great, but why are you still concerned about what the men are doing and why they're not doing this and that? But y'all said y'all didn't want them, you don't need them, they're this, they're that, and the third, but you still wondering why they're not approaching. Did y'all think this was going to be a temporary thing? Do y'all think that men just were, you know, saying this temporarily, you know, for a moment, maybe, you know, and then they were going to change their minds, that they were going to all of a sudden realize, oh, you know what, black women aren't that bad. You know, we just going to ignore the fact that they call us dusty. They call us, you know, we're lame. We're all of this. Y'all don't want us. Y'all don't need us. Did y'all think that saying all of that was only going to make them temporarily walk away? And then they're going to turn around and say, oh, y'all are really the queens and y'all really so great. And we don't care what y'all say about us. We just going to still come back and cater to you and run to you and do all these things. Did y'all really think men was going to change their mind? Like a lot of women do? This is why I say, look, for some women think that men are moving and do things the way they do it. Women change their mind. You change your mind about what you want to eat. You change your mind about where you want to go. You change your mind about what you're going to wear. You change your mind about a lot of things, but men typically don't do that. When they make a decision, they roll with it. Hence the reason why most men don't walk away from marriages, because when they made that commitment to that woman, they were serious about it. And I say most men are serious about the commitment that they make to a woman or the decisions that they make in general. They usually don't flip-flop on those decisions. They usually don't. They don't have the opportunity to do that. So they have to make a choice and stick with it. And unfortunately, women, it's a different story, but I think that's what's hurting a lot of women, because they're not used to accountability. They're not used to being held accountable for the choices that they make. So they just keep making them, whether they're poor or not. And so I just think that when men, and my point to that is when men make a decision, they pretty much stick to it. So if they're walking away and they're saying, we don't want to deal with your combativeness, we've heard enough, we've taken enough of your slander, we've taken enough of y'all criticism and all these things that women attribute to all men. And they're saying, we want no parts of it. We don't want to deal with that, until, we want to deal with women who want to be with us, who want to work with us, who want to, who see us as somebody to respect, and not somebody you just could talk to any kind of way and treat any kind of way, and then think that they're supposed to just sit there and tolerate the BS. Because that's what a lot of men have been doing. Black men have been tolerating the BS from black women. And this is why black women think that they can just treat them any kind of way, and that they could just talk to them any kind of way, and that They don't have to respect them and hold them in a higher regard. And so now black men are saying, nah, we worth something too. We don't have to be treated this way. We don't have to be talked down to, and we don't want to deal with it. So we rather be by ourselves. We'd rather be single. We'd rather go over here and live our lives and focus on our careers, maybe, or focus on leveling up for ourselves. And hopefully we can find a woman who appreciates us and understand that we're not all bad. We're not all, what they say we are. And so black women just act like, oh, these men just up and left and don't want to deal with y'all. Y'all don't see y'all part. Y'all have never been held accountable. So you don't see that what you've said and what you've created. You don't see that you've created a mess. And you don't see why the men are doing it. You just act oblivious and nonchalant, like, oh, why are they doing it? So they really don't want to talk with us. Oh, they really not trying to be around us. And now you're trying to flip it on them and say, oh, they really just hate us. No, they not. They don't hate you. Most black men are with black women. They don't hate you. They just don't like your behavior. And a lot of black women don't want to change their behavior. You just want them to accept it. And men are tired of just accepting the bare minimum. They're tired of accepting the bare minimum. Because every person is not the same. You can't lump or group all black men into this one category and just treat them all the same and then think you're going to get the same response from every last one of them. And and that's just not fair. But, I just think that it's interesting, all I'm saying, to see that there are some women out here, it's not all, but some women out here acting like they're so shocked and confused that the men are really not trying to date them, really not trying to be around them. And it's almost like they're panicking. Like I said, you're getting a little nervous. Like, damn, well, if they don't want us, who gonna want us? Because as much as we hear women talk about divesting and all that, we don't see a whole bunch of black women divesting. A whole bunch of white men or any other men ain't running to be with black women like that. And I'm not saying that as a shade. I'm just saying it as a fact. That is not. They're not running to be with y'all like that because they see your behavior too. And a lot of them talk about it. They're not going to tell you about it. I'm pretty sure other people see that behavior and they think it's crazy as well. So I just think, once again, I think it would be beneficial for women, and particularly black women, to realize your mistakes. Look at the errors of your ways and fix it. That's all. We all have things we have to fix. I don't understand why so many women could be so delusional and so unknowing of yourself to see that there's a part that you play in all of this. You're not oblivious to this. It's not just the men. I say this 1,000 times. As individuals, men and women, we all have to recognize ourselves. We have to all recognize our flaws, changes we need to make, and just in general, because I think when you are self-aware, once again, of yourself, and you realize, hey, that you have contributed to some of the, the failed relationships that you've been in. You can't possibly have been in multiple relationships with a man, and every one of those relationships, the man was solely the problem. Every one of them, you have no contribution to that relationship in a negative or positive way, because I bet if we asked the question and framed it differently, whether you contributed to that relationship in a positive way, you will be able to say all of the positive things that you've done in that relationship. But when we speak on the negative aspects of the relationship, there's never a negative part that you've ever played in a relationship. So that would mean that you were perfect. And we know that is not the case. No one's perfect. So it's asinine to try to push that narrative like as if as women, you don't make mistakes, you don't do anything wrong, you don't have any negative traits, you don't have any flaws. And if you do, you got to understand that your flaws show up in a relationship, because this is a person that you're with every single day. You got to understand that there's some negatives and there's some positives when it comes to relationships, because that is just who we are as human beings. We are flawed. So that means we make mistakes. We say things we don't, we regret sometimes. We do things that we regret. But the point of it all is not that you don't make mistakes, but the fact that you own up to them. The fact that you acknowledge that you made the mistake and you change that behavior. That's what it's all about, change behavior. But if you don't ever see yourself as flawed and you don't see the mistakes that you have made, but you only see the other person's, think about that. If somebody always accused you or pointed out your flaws, your mistakes all the time, and they never acknowledge their own, And it just always say what you're doing wrong. You're doing this, you're doing. Have you ever experienced that with somebody that always made it seem like you were always a problem and they never admit that they have a problem when you see clearly that they do have them? That's tiresome. And that's something that you don't want to keep having to deal with. At some point, that person is going to get tired of that. And you got to also acknowledge, hey, you know what? That you have contributed to that. It's not about a right or wrong. It's about just being knowledgeable of yourself. And when you recognize that you have, contributed to that type of behavior, that you try and start working on yourself to not continue to do that. Because you know that that is not conducive to a healthy relationship. And that's a relationship with, whether it's an intimate partner, whether it's family, whether it's friendships, that has everything to do with how you are with other people and yourself. So if you want to be a better person overall, it would make sense to become self-aware of what you're doing. You cannot possibly walk through life thinking that you don't have any flaws and that you have not contributed to any negativity in any situation, that you were always this perfect being and everybody else that you surround yourself around are always the ones that's messing up. And you never mess up. That's hard for me to believe because I see otherwise. But this is sort of the narrative that you get when you hear women talk about relationships. Every man that they was with was a narcissist. Oh, he was an abusive. He was this and that. But you never point out your part in it and all of it. What did you do in that relationship? Have you ever been the aggressor? Have you ever been the combative one? Have you ever spoke out of turn? Have you ever called that person names? Have you ever done anything that contributed to the demise of that relationship? Because I guarantee you have. But a lot of women don't want to acknowledge their part. And I think that weighs heavily on whether you are able to maintain a relationship with anyone. Because I think most people are reasonable. Most people can understand, hey, you know what? Hell, she made a mistake. Okay, I can forgive that. But if you're constantly making mistakes and you never own up to it, but you're quick to jump on somebody when they make a mistake, that's going to be a problem. And then that's what I see when it comes to women and dating. It's all the men. The men are all flawed. They all have issues. They're all this. They're all that. But women, when you say women are this and they're combative and they're this and they're that, they take offense to it because you don't want to accept the fact that a lot of that is true to some capacity. It doesn't make you a full all overall bad person, but I think if you never acknowledge your flaws and your fault in things, that will create a problem. And that's a problem that a lot of men don't want to deal with, just as much as women wouldn't want to deal with a man who's always pointing their flaws out and not accepting his. So I just say flip it around. If it triggers you, flip it around and see if this is something that you would want a man to do to you. And if you don't, then that means it would make sense to work on yourself so that you would be better for you, your kids, and any potential relationship that you might think about getting into. That's all, just to better yourself. And if you can't do that, and if you only see that you're perfect and everybody else is flawed, then that's a major problem with you. And if you're thinking that just because you get degree after degree that somehow changes the narrative, I'm sorry, that does not. Getting a degree and getting all these PhDs doesn't solidify that you're perfect and that you don't have problems, because that doesn't change that. So I just want women to understand that, because they really go out here like your ish don't stink. Like you are perfect and every person around you is just a problem. And if they don't do what you want them to do, then somehow they're the problem and you ain't gonna settle. And then wonder why nobody wants to approach you or look your way or even deal with you. So you got to start looking inward. Once again, in order to fix the problem, it's going to have to start with women, in my opinion, because women are the ones who have the biggest problems. Guess what? And if you have the biggest problem with something, guess who has to do something to change it? You. It's the assumption that if you got a problem with something, it's the other person that has to change. No, you got to make the changes because you have the problem. So if you got the problem with something, you got to look at yourself and do something to change that. But I'm going to leave it here. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Comment, like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell to be notified when I upload new content. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.